What's going on, everyone? It's LFC Transfer Room here, and match day preview. We're actually going to be playing a game on a Saturday instead of a Sunday for once, so that'll be a nice, refreshing change. And we're on TV. Even more shocking news. I mean, for all the big news stories, being on TV again is quite a nice one. I'm joined today by Matty, Neil, and Big Oz. Matty, sprinting through the door straight onto the stream. How are you doing? You coping? It's Friday at least.
Yeah, it's been a long day, but I'm doing all right. I'm looking forward to a Saturday game. Like you say, I'm already sick of Sundays. I'm used to working Sundays, so I've had to really change my life around just to bloody go watch the Reds. Does me head in. So Saturday game welcomed, to be honest, massively.
Neil, happy Friday. Ready for a Saturday action?
I am. I'm really looking forward to it, to be honest. And I think the way we're playing at the moment is quite exciting. So looking forward to games rather than being filled with dread, which is probably what we were feeling about this time last year. So exciting times.
I think one of the safe predictions, isn't it, Dave, that we're going to go 1-0 down, or we're not? But, Saturday game, 1-0 down. Whoa, why make it easy?
I wouldn't be surprised, let's put it that way. I mean, it's happened quite a lot recently, hasn't it? So we've got that to go on. But I tend to believe that they will improve that given a little bit more time. But I'm not overly concerned because at the other end, we're doing okay.
Exactly. It's like basketball, isn't it? Spurs and us, we know there's going to be goals. Watch, it'll be 0-0 now. But before we get into a Liverpool Spurs preview, we're going to have a look at some transfer news. We are, after all, LFC Transfer Room, and the name being linked at the moment is, unsurprisingly, it's either a Japanese player or a Dutch player. Today it's a Dutch player. It's Donyell Malen, right winger, Borussia Dortmund, potentially the backup, Matty, for Mo Salah. What do you think about this one?
I'm not sure, to be honest. Like, he's had a few good seasons. He's had a few off seasons. It's just, but then Klopp does love a project player, someone who's maybe got a chip on the shoulder from elsewhere. So someone like him then could be useful. But it's just his hit and miss season scare me. I mean, he looks exciting, but I feel like to replace Mo Salah is impossible. But I thought our bar might have been higher than Donyell Malen.
He plays, Neil. He's 134 games as centre forward, 72 games as a left winger, and 45 games as a right winger so far in his career. We don't need another left winger, do we? / centre forward?
No, I don't think so, because I think we've got more than enough cover there with Gakpo, Diaz, Jota, and Núñez can also play in both positions. So yeah, it's a bit of a strange one for me. And if we are looking at it as a right-sided option, he's a right-footed player, I believe. So it would be a completely different option than we get on that right wing with Salah currently. I think he was quite hot when he was in Holland. I think he was at PSV. He was doing well. I'd probably convince myself when we were linked with him he'd be a good signing. But then I think he had a bit of a slow start at Dortmund. So yeah, it feels a bit underwhelming. Although I think he's had a fairly decent start to this season. But yeah, not for me at the moment.
Before we get on to Big Oz's reaction, Jen, as always, thank you very much for the super sticker. Let us know what you think about this Donyell Malen link. But as always, thank you for funding the channel, and I appreciate all the help and support that you give to us. And make sure, guys, that you put your questions in the chat as well. We will come to questions towards the end of the stream, and we'll do a bit of a summary of anything that you've got to ask the guys that we don't cover whilst we're going. So make sure if you have got something pressing in your brain, you just write it out and put it in there. We'll probably come back to it. When you look at his stats, statistically, you go on something like FBref, because you see the players that he is most statistically comparable to. And I'm going to read you the list. Marcus Rashford, Moussa Diaby, Gabriel Martinelli, Rafael Leao, Rodrigo, Karim Adeyemi, Mohamed Salah, Vinicius Junior, Serge Gnabry, Leroy Sané. So it's just basically picking someone who's played a few games at right wing and fits within the thing. Is it lazy journalism?
Who are you asking? Me?
You, yeah.
Very nice. I don't, links like these I don't really get excited about because it doesn't feel right to me. It feels like maybe a bit of agent business. He had a good start to the season so far. He scored a few goals, had a lot of minutes, played all games. So he's had a pretty decent start to the season. But yeah, I mean, where does he fit with us? I mean, we've got major cover everywhere, and he's not going to be the guy who replaces Salah. I'm pretty sure of that. That seems rather impossible to me. So it seems like a bit of a non-starter. I mean, decent player, no doubt. 24 years old, so still young, but hasn't set the world on fire yet at 24. So yeah, I mean, seems like a good lad, but I just don't see him with us. We've got so much cover in the forward areas. The only one we need to look for, really and truly, is a right winger as an understudy, but that's it.
I still think we're again. I'm going to say I still think we're looking for a Salah replacement. I think the hunt is on this season and this season to find one, because I think that he will go to Saudi. But there's reports that maybe he won't. Maybe we'll be trying to keep him and stuff like that. But we'll see. One of the other reports is about how Klopp was loving this Endo performance, and I've not spoke to you about Endo yet, Neil. I don't think we've been on a stream together yet. Some people seem not overly enamoured because obviously he's not a big money signing and he's a 30-year-old coming in. But, I'm not necessarily against older players coming through the door as long as they do the job properly. And I think what we saw in the game against Leicester is someone that played the role of a DM perfectly.
Yeah, I don't think people had too much with the transfer at the time. I think they were probably thinking it would be more of a James Milner type replacement, someone that would come on late in games and do things similar to what Milner did. However, because we didn't sign an out-and-out number 6, I think expectations grew that, he was going to have to come in and perform that role. And I think it's fair to say in those early 2 or 3 games, not helped by red cards in those games, he didn't perform that great. And, people were a little bit sceptical. The other night, I thought he was excellent. I thought he was one of our, 2-3 best players. I think he got better as the game went on, as his confidence grew. I think he's always looked like he's someone that's good on the ball, but he started to get around the pitch the other night. Wasn't as hesitant when he was going in for tackles. Even made a few tactical fouls high up the pitch to break up play, which is exactly what we need in there. So I'm quite excited. I'd be half tempted to chuck him in tomorrow because I did think he played as a number 6, as we know that position. I don't think he will play, but yeah, I was really encouraged by it, and even reading the quotes after you start to realise that his family's now over here, the kids are going to school, and all those things are going to have an impact on how he settled. So for me, it was really, really encouraging. It did look like we had a proper number 6 playing, and if that's how he's going to be going forward, then I'm all for it.
Let me hit you some stats, Big Oz. In that game against Leicester, 14 recoveries, 4 interceptions, 11 passes into the final third, an assist, a 90% pass rate. And a player, let's not forget, McAllister and Szoboszlai had a full pre-season with our team. He didn't. He came in right at the end, so no time to sort of integrate, doing it on the fly. That's not bad.
It's actually very, very good, in my opinion, to be honest. I think a guy who comes from Germany and comes to the Premier League, I've said this before, it takes time. The speed of the game is completely different. And when you're in that number 6, where your main role is breaking up play, and in and around that area where everything is so quick and so tight and so all over the place, it takes time. But I saw glimpses in his first few performances of there's something there. There's definitely something there. I think in this game, he proved that he can do the role very, very well. I don't think we have any other real number 6 in the entire squad, if I'm honest with you. I don't want to see McAllister playing number 6. I definitely don't want to see Szoboszlai playing number 6. And Bajcetic needs to get his fitness back. But even him, I think he's more box to box than a number 6, to be honest with you, judging by the way he's played so far and his skill set. So I think Endo's the real only number 6. In saying that, obviously he's not going to play every game. But I'd like to see him come in for important games. He did the role exceptionally well. And I've got to be honest with you, Leicester's counter press was pretty good on Wednesday. They gave us a hard time. They were quick, they were at it, they were up for it. And he managed really, really well in that environment. You know how championship teams are. They're crazy, man. They just go, and it's all erratic, and they never stop running. Long season, interesting league, the championship. So, yeah, I think he's ready. Whether fitness-wise now he can pull off 2 full games in a row. I think he played the 90. He played the 90, didn't he, in midweek? So I don't see him, possibly for that reason, I wouldn't see him starting against Spurs. But I think he can do a job for sure.
I think Vase of Flowers makes a really good point here, Neil, which is Endo could easily become a cult status figure. You know, like Origi did and stuff like that. Someone that just comes on, Milner did, just makes big things happen. And that big thing could be as simple as snapping James Maddison in half in the first 10 minutes. Liverpool fans would love him. You know, he got a nice booming header against Leicester at the first post defensively as well. I remember that one, just clearing it. So it's not going to take much for him to become. It's really difficult, I find, to hate Japanese players because they're so respectful naturally in their culture that I think when he starts to do some tactical fouls, let's call them, I think he may become a cult hero.
Yeah, I think he's got that in his game where he will wipe players out, and he'll do it fairly more often than not. And I think, to be honest, in the first 2 or 3 games that he had, and in the LASK game, he was a bit hesitant in those areas, but he was a lot more on it and a lot sharper in the week. So you can see big tackles coming in from him, which will probably be could be quite influential late in games. I think he's definitely got that in him that, he could become that kind of cult hero. Minamino was a little bit like, again, another Japanese player that people took to their hearts because they appreciated how selfless he was for the team, really, because he came in and he played in cup games, scored important goals in cup games, but then didn't find himself in the team in the latter stages, which was hard for him. But his attitude was unwavering. So I think there's every chance that Endo, providing he continues the form that he showed on Wednesday, and I agree with Dave, they were quite good on the counter and caused us a few problems. As long as we see that, I think he will become very popular very quickly.
Now, I'm quite happy with him so far. Klopp's quite happy with him. You guys are happy. There's one person on our stream who's not 100% sold on Endo yet, and he's just dropped back in. Matty, what is it? Because obviously you go to the. I watch pretty much most of mine on TV. You go to the game, so you might see something different to us. What is it that's not got you sold yet?
It's not like his work ethic or nothing, because he does work hard, but he had 45 good minutes, in my opinion. Like, second half, midweek, he was fantastic. I completely unbelievable. But before that, he wasn't. And I do think he's going to strike me as that type of Minamino player, like you say, who you're just seeing in cup games. And I don't think he'll play Premier League and stuff. I just want a bit more like proof from him before. If he can give me that 45 minutes every week, he's going to be a massive player for us, definitely. But I'm just not getting carried away by that performance, really. And I do think Klopp went into the season after he knew we weren't getting Lavia and Caicedo and stuff. I think he went into the season knowing his midfield three more than likely be Jones, McAllister, and Dom and Szoboszlai, with Grav maybe alternating with Jones. And that excites me because Grav's really, really excited me. Although he's only played 2 games, he's looked unbelievable. Whereas Endo's had 45 unbelievable minutes for me. So I don't think he'll start against Tottenham or anything, but I'm not against embedding into the side England Cup games, because I think it's very well documented that Asian players do take more time to settle. We've seen that with Minamino. So if he can give us that 45 minutes on a more regular basis, then I think he's going to be huge for us. It's just whether he can. But I do trust Klopp. Klopp was amazed at the price he got him for. So he must have something about him. And we did see that second half against Leicester. He had that little spark and that grip between his teeth, really. But I should have said his gum shield. But that's the only thing that annoys me about him. And he wears a gum shield to play footy.
I'm surprised Klopp don't wear a gum shield. The amount of money he spent on those teeth and how hard he grinds them together. Now, as Jamie says, if you are new here, please like and subscribe to the channel. It's a Liverpool fan channel made by fans for fans. This is just something that we do because we like talking about Liverpool. So if you are new here, please like and subscribe. We go live 7:30 every day, and obviously, if there's any breaking transfer news, then we obviously jump on almost immediately. Now, one of the things that I'm really curious to see about Endo, Big Oz, which I think is probably going to be the key as to whether Matty gets fully on board or not, is when Klopp says, I need you to sit on this attacking midfielder and shut them down for an entire game. Because I think if he's got that in his locker, I think that's everything that we potentially need in a DM to shut down an Odegaard, shut down a Maddison. So is this an opportunity? But without pre-season, maybe it's putting it on him too soon. What do you think about him needing to be able to shut down a player?
I saw him a few times in the Bundesliga. I followed his stats. In the Bundesliga, he was probably known as the best DM in the league, which was it's an indicator that the guy's got quality. So I don't think he'll have any problem doing any of the tasks that a defensive midfielder needs to do. You don't get that reputation in the Bundesliga by being an average player. You get that reputation in the Bundesliga by being a very good player. So I think he can do it all. Again, as we've all said, takes time. You cannot, he's been with us, 2 months? Yeah. 2.5 months. It takes time. The guy needs some time. Get up to speed with what's happening within the team. Get up to speed with how the league operates and what you're facing in terms of absolute mayhem on the pitch. And I think once he finds that feet and he gets used to being able to see what's coming when, then I think he'll be very, very effective. I like him. I don't care what anybody says. I like the guy, and I really hope he smashes it for us.
I don't think anyone can dislike him. I think I don't think he can turn into a Henderson figure where everyone goes, "Oh, I hate this guy. I hate this guy." I think there's probably more chance that turns into Joe Gomez than it would Endo, because it's really hard to hate somebody, I think, who's just so kind, respectful, and polite. Or Jones is the other one, but again, Jones is playing too good for people to show all the hate to him anymore. I think people are still trying, but we'll see how we go. Everyone gets really angry by halftime because we're 1-0 down, and then everyone's like, "Oh, I'm happy again because we win 3-1." We're going to move on to the Spurs game, and Matty, it's a really big game for Spurs this, because obviously they drew with Arsenal. So can they keep themselves in this conversation? Losing to us at home would probably make people go, "Well, they're just fighting for top 4. They're not actually going to do anything this season." But we've not been beaten in 16, so beating us is going to be a tricky one.
Yeah, and it's mad because I'm more worried now than when they had Harry Kane, which you never thought you'd ever say that with Spurs, really. But I really, really like Ange as a manager. I think his style of football is fantastic. I think them getting top 4 this year is probably the aim that's been set to them. And if they do get that, then we've done really well, given the sides around them now. And it's more than like a big 6. It's like a big 7 or 8, really, that are there or thereabouts. So if they get top 4, it's huge for them. But I just feel like Ange will have that little bit more in his teeth because he's a Liverpool fan. And if you're a Liverpool fan, you're going to Anfield, not even going to Anfield, welcoming Liverpool to your stadium, where you've probably watched Jurgen Klopp and based a lot of your coaching on his methods and stuff as well. He's going to want to beat us more than anything, and that does worry me. But I agree with Muse's comment there. Son's the only one player I really respect for Spurs. I mean, we all know Richarlison will probably score because that's what he does against Liverpool. Like, he didn't score at all last year, didn't score against us. It's typical. But I'm not one bit scared of Spurs. I think Vicario's a good keeper, but I think our level of attack is too good for him. I think we'll be too smart. I think they've got a lot of excitement times ahead of them Spurs, really, with like Destiny. I don't even want to butcher his surname. And then they've got Alfie Devine and stuff coming through the youth ranks, who's a local lad to Liverpool. And they've got really good players coming through to embed in and replace Harry Kane. And genuinely, the biggest compliment I can give them is I'm more worried now than I was last year. I think they play much more exciting and much better football since he's left. So it'll be a good game, but I still think we win.
Neil, one of the both Liverpool and Spurs so far, you know, I think are open teams in terms of you can score against, but they do seem to be like, you know, Son's the finisher. Do they slightly lack up front in comparison to probably us, which you could probably say against most teams in the league, which is potentially where that game's going to be won and lost. If Son's not on it, we probably get the 3 points.
Yeah, I would agree. I think they've got good attacking players, but not prolific goal scorers other than Son. Although he had a poor season last year, but it looks like he's coming back to form. I like Kulusevski. I think he's a talented player, but he's not 20-25 goals. Richarlison, as Matty mentioned, yeah. The less said about him, the better. I think Brennan Johnson's injured. I think from what I heard, I didn't see it because I was watching us, but he had a good game in the North London derby. And then they've got, I think, Solomon, the lad they got from Fulham on the left. So when you compare that as a 4 or 5 to what we've got, well, we've probably got 5 players that are all capable of scoring 20 plus goals a season. We do definitely have the edge in terms of firepower. The other thing with them as well, and Leicester did it to a certain respect the other night, was they took big risks playing out from the back. And I think Spurs, the big difference between them now under Ange, who I like as a Liverpool fan, is they will also take risks playing out from the back. And I think they've got players like Romero that can make mistakes. And I think we can capitalise on those mistakes by setting traps, winning the ball high up the pitch and getting in on goal. So, yeah, our firepower outranks them. And I think we can force them into errors in their defensive third.
Now, Big Oz, one of the things Jamie says here is having your European football is a huge advantage for Spurs, but they're out the League Cup, so they're playing once a week. Some of their squad players are not getting regular football like some of ours are getting multiple. You know, sometimes it's an advantage to be not playing regularly. Sometimes it's a disadvantage, especially when you're building a new culture and a new system. Do you think it's an advantage or a disadvantage for them not, only playing once a week?
I think it's a disadvantage now, but later in the season it will become an advantage. So I think other teams are getting up to speed quicker in terms of fitness levels, getting used to the intensity of the Premier League. More games gives you more match fitness, doesn't it? And gets your muscle memory going, and you start to play better. So I think it's a disadvantage at the moment. But obviously, when we get down the final stretch, when everyone else has played 60 games and they've played 48 or 30 or whatever, 36 or whatever it might be, then you're going to say, okay, they're going to have much fresher legs. But I love Ange because obviously I'm an Australian citizen as well. So he's a hero in Australia, an absolute hero. He's done really great in all of his coaching jobs so far, well, the majority at least. And if I look at the fixtures that they've had this year, I mean, the only really difficult team they had was Arsenal in the recent week, and the rest were rubbish. I mean, Brentford, Man United, Bournemouth, Fulham in the cup. But they smashed Burnley, but Burnley are rubbish, So I go back, Man United are rubbish. So, I don't think they've had much of a challenge so far. They did well against Arsenal, but Arsenal were rubbish. Let's be honest; they weren't at their game against Spurs. So for me, the jury is still out. When they start playing some hard teams, some really hard teams, like we've had in the past 4 or 5 weeks, really good football teams, then I'll start to say, okay, maybe these guys are up for it. But I think they'll be fighting for top 4, but I'm not quite sure they'll get it.
Well, we're going to start putting together the team we would play. We would select against Spurs, and then we'll do score predictions at the end. So we're gonna do it defense, midfield, attack. So we'll start with defense. So again, put it in the chat who you want your back four to be, because we're just gonna say Alisson starts in goal. I think that's probably fair. Matty, for you, who's your back four? Are you bringing Trent straight back in?
No. I think it'd be a risk to bring Trent straight back in and Gomez done in his first game. He had a bit of a howler at that inverted role, but in his last game, I think he played really well. And it's just more. He's got match fitness. It's a big game to go straight into, really. And do I think he'll start Gomez if Trent's available? Probably not. He probably will start Trent, but I still just think it's a bit of a risk. It's being a bit of a big injury in terms of when you put in the scope of Trent's not really injured that much, and when he is, it's 1 or 2 games. So it's been a bit of a decent injury for Trent, so I wouldn't rush him back. I think you have to start even next to Virgil purely because of the pace that Spurs do have. Solomon's rapid, Son's rapid, and Matip just isn't fast enough to deal with them, really. So I think you have to start Ibu next to Van Dijk, and then Andy Robertson on the left, really. Ibu, for me, is one of the best centre-halves in the world. He's unbelievable the way he plays his game. I love everything about him. One of the most probably underappreciated signings in recent years, because we still do need a defender, so you don't really appreciate just how much of an impact Ibu has had. I think he's huge for us, and he has to start when he's fit and in these big games. So for me, he has to start with Van Dijk.
What about you, Neil? What's your back four?
So I would go Gomez, Konate, Van Dijk, and Robertson. I think Matip's done well. I think he's, the Joel Matip that we know he can be. But I think there's enough games that we can sort of pick and choose, the pairing that we want, and there's no problem. He can play on Thursday. So Konate definitely there for the pace of Son, so that we don't get caught out in behind. I would stick with Gomez at right back. I think it's important that when players play well, that they do get rewarded. And I think it would be a big confidence booster for Gomez to start ahead of Trent. I think he'll play Trent. Based on a comment I saw earlier, I think he said something like, if Trent trains today, then he'll be in the squad and play. So assuming that is a real quote that I saw, then I think he'll start Trent.
Interesting, because I'm thinking about Spurs and obviously where Son runs and where he comes from and stuff like that. Bigos. So I was like, do I want Gomez there from a defensive perspective? Do I want Jones there and potentially Endo as 6? So because that worked really well against Leicester, but it's really unfair to expect Jones to be able to play against probably the best left winger in the Premier League over the last collective seasons. What's your back four?
I'm going the same. I'm going Gomez and Konate for a couple of reasons. I think Gomez deserves the opportunity to continue what he's been doing. But at the same time, both him and Konate are both rapid. So dealing with Son, even if Gomez slips into that inverted 6, he's got enough pace to get back. He's going to have to work hard, don't get me wrong. When we lose possession, he's going to have to get himself back into position quick, smart. But I think he's got the pace and the energy to do so. So yeah, I'm going with Joe Gomez, Ibu, Verge, obviously, and Robbo. I mean, that's for me makes sense. With regards to Trent, Klopp did say that, Neil, but I think it more was in the context of he'll get some minutes at the end of the game, rather than ship him. I might be wrong, don't get me wrong. That's the way I read it, because I think it might be slightly criminal to bring Trent in straight away against Spurs and against Son. But yeah, he did say that, and I assume it's to mean he's going to get some game time.
There is part of me, and I agree in terms of the everyone saying the same one, which is obviously Gomez, Konate, Virgil and Robertson's going to be our back four, but there is part of my brain that's going, I think he's going to start Matip next to Van Dijk because of how Matip bodied Antonio, and I think he wants to ensure that Richarlison gets the exact same treatment, and I think Matip's just a little bit more up for that type of fight. And it'd be good to get Matip's confidence up a little bit more with another one-on-one battle, which he should win. Because it's Richarlison, and even if Richarlison gets free, he'll probably sky it. It's fine.
I wouldn't be surprised to see Richarlison on the bench and Son through the middle. So Son's goals over the past couple of weeks, I think, have come where he's moved from the left into the middle. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Kulusevski on the right, Solomon on the left, and Son through the middle. It could be Richarlison through the middle and Son on the left, but I think because Son's looked better through the middle, I think that's what they'll go with Solomon on the left.
And there we go. Look, if Klopp picks Matip over Ibu, I'll be annoyed. It's nothing against Ibu because I think he's going to be the best defender in the world. It's just I think Matip knows more of the dark arts at the moment because he's older, knows what you can get away with. But we'll see. I would start Ibu if it was my choice, but it's not. It's Klopp's. Midfield.
I'd be surprised, honestly.
Well, he was back last week, wasn't he? He was back against West Ham, but they didn't play him.
It's just, for me, it's just the pace of the front line. And Matip he can read the game super well. He's got a good tackle in him. He dribbles well, but he's not that quick. So that's
Antonio's rapid.
Yeah, but yes, he is. But Antonio was just
not.
He was just not given any ball, right? So it was Ibu. Wasn't it Ibu against him? Wasn't it, or was it Matip against him?
It was Matip against Antonio.
Matip. That aerial battle, he lost to Matip, and that was the reason why Matip was on him, because Matip is fantastic in the air. I mean, the guy's tall enough, but he's got a good leap on him as well. So he just completely handled Antonio, didn't give him much time to run. And that was the perfect solution.
So let's go for midfield. We've got, I think everyone may be going the same way as what Squidley's done here, which is Curtis, McAllister and Szoboszlai. Matty, we know you're not a big fan of Curtis Jones. I'm assuming you're dropping him for Endo.
No way. I just made up. I was right again, to be honest. I love it. I love reveling in it. Curtis has been fantastic this season. Wherever he's played, I think whenever he's been called upon, he's been fantastic. Sometimes he started games slow. I think the only criticism I'd have of him is he holds onto the ball just a little bit too long than he probably should. He should release it a bit more and probably get a bit more confidence on the ball. But I think that'll come. I mean, I know he's played 100 games for us, but he hasn't had a regular run in the side until now. And I think every week we're seeing just a little bit more of Curtis expressed himself a bit more, and he's been fantastic. And that midfield's work, and don't get me wrong, I'm gutted that we're wasting McAllister in a 6. I think he's phenomenal further forward. And Szoboszlai is unbelievable as a 6, but you can't have him any further back. He's unbelievable. He's going to be one of the best midfielders the league's ever seen. I think he's that good. So I'd say Jones, Macher and Szoboszlai, myself. I think that's our best midfield, to be honest. I think it's Elliott's been unfortunate that Szoboszlai is probably going to be one of the best midfielders in the world because he's took his position, but that's no fault on him. And I think that finally we've got depth coming off the bench who can change a game. But for me, the starting midfield's got to be Jones, Macher and Szoboszlai. I think that's our best 3 easily.
I think the best thing you can say about Elliott, though, Matty, is every time he's come off the bench at around about 60 minutes, he's changed the game from an energy perspective really positively, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's been unbelievable this year, Elliott, and I think he'll get his game time, obviously, in the cup, so hopefully we do stay in them. But he's changed the game when he came on. He's had a similar impact like Jota off the bench. You just know something's going to happen, and he comes on, he's energetic, he's hungry, and that's what you want off your bench. And for the first time in a few seasons, really, our bench every week, you look at it and you can see where we can make changes and improve within the side. So it's exciting, I think, and I think that's why I think we'll coast past Spurs.
Now, Neil, someone saying that they'd love to see a Grav and Mac Dom midfield at some point, and one of the things that I noticed is we kind of play in a double pivot, but either the right back comes in, but sometimes you see Jones and Maka playing it, sometimes you see Szoboszlai and Maka playing it. We have this weird, like, rotational double 6 type thing going on. Do you think it's going to be that midfield where Jones, McAllister, Szoboszlai, have they got their pretty much starting shirts nailed on for the Premier League at the moment?
I think so. And I think they performed really well against West Ham. I like McAllister. I think he's a fantastic player. He worries me a bit as the deepest midfielder, that he gets caught in possession quite easily. And I think teams have targeted that a little bit. But I want to see us go forward. I want to see us play good football. So having McAllister with Szoboszlai or Jones alongside him and one further in front, or the right back coming in, fine. As I say, that's my only concern with his role in that system. I think all three deserve to play. I think there is a case for Endo to play if he could perform like he did in the week, and I think then Gravenberch is another very decent option as well. I'd stick with a 3, but as I say, I've got a nagging doubt in the back of my head about McAllister playing in the deepest midfield role.
I get it. I kind of want to see it with how they've changed Trent's role, because when Konate plays with Trent, and I think it was the last game, Konate went out to the right wing and Trent almost stood in the centre-back spot and just played the ball from there. So next to McAllister's got an out ball really quickly because he's got Curtis and he's got Trent, but we've not been able to see that yet. And I'm really curious to see how destructive that can be, because I think we saw one half of it and it was killer. But I agree at the moment he's the target because he's got a couple of out balls or going back to the keeper. So, but again, it's a new midfield. Got to keep reminding ourselves, don't we, Big Oz, that we've got a brand new midfield. Where to pass to each other isn't muscle memory yet. They've played 6 games together. And it's all right to have these concerns, but they do need to continue to work on it. And probably it's good signs that we're winning games consistently and got a brand new central part of our entire team.
You're spot on about, they've done extremely well so far, considering it's only 6 games in of them ever working together. So that's just crazy to think about how well they've done, considering those numbers. I'm going to go with the same midfield, but a little bit different. So I agree with Neil. McAllister's not a 6. I don't think he plays well when he's in a 6. I don't think he's the kind of player who embraces that role fully. I think he wants to be further up the pitch and having more of an impact for me. So I would like to see, and this is for future as well, possibly in some games, Curtis and Trent both in the inverted roles. I think the way Curtis controls the game, he sort of gets in the little pockets, not further up the pitch, very rarely, more right in the center of midfield. And his ability to just turn and feed, for me, that has been his main plus so far, especially this season. He's done it really, really well. So I would like to see him in that sort of number 6 role. Admittedly, yes, he still has to work a bit on breaking up play, but he's getting better at that too. I mean, he's been in that role a couple of times this season already. He's found himself in that role, and I've been really impressed with what he's done. Again, I don't think he has and this is my one, I love Curtis, honestly, don't get me wrong, but my one sort of, what's the word I'm looking for, doubt and annoyance surrounding him is he doesn't make big impact moments in games, very, very rarely. So I think he's much better trying to control the midfield tempo rather than being where Dom is or McAllister ready to do that final pass or get onto and have a shot and these sort of things. So that's why I like to see Curtis in the number 6 role and McAllister and Dominic further up front. I know I'm a little bit harsh, but that's just the way I think about it.
Yeah, I kind of get what you're saying, but I'm seeing Jones play that Gini Wijnaldum role. And I think he's learning it quite well, because the amount of times against Leicester we saw him just put his body between the player and him, which is what Gini used to do all the time, put his body between, roll, and then run away with it and pass to the right person. It's a completely different role for Curtis this year for me, because end of last year he was left central midfielder, coming late into the box and scoring goals and winning games, wasn't he? Whereas this year he doesn't seem to get in the box. I think he got in the box once against Leicester and he was wide open and no one found him. Come on, Matt, you're our resident Jones insider knowledge. Firstly, have you had a word about the Barnet? Because
as far as it's not that bad, to be fair. I think with Jones, people are starting to finally see what everyone else has seen for such a long time. Really, he doesn't need to make them show-stopping moments in games. Believe me, if he wanted to and he played that role, he most definitely can. He's got it in his locker. His shot is unbelievable. He's a really, really attacker-minded player. But in this side, you're right. He's more like the Genie Wijnaldum who mops everything up. He makes the most tackles. There was a comment about Szoboszlai losing the ball a lot, which is true. But that's why you have Jones complimenting him so well, because he'll mop up the mess like what Genie used to do. We never ever replaced Genie, everyone said, but realistically, we always had the replacement there in Jones, and I think he's learned so much under Klopp over the years, and he's finally starting to get that respect, really, where you're thinking he's probably one of the first names on the team sheet. I mean, I was so happy for him to lead the side out against Leicester. That's huge for a lad like him, a local lad, to go and lead the side out, and his stats this year have been absolutely unbelievable. His ball retention's unbelievable, his tackle success rate, and he's just that midfielder who goes about his job really without getting the praise and credit that he deserves, because he's not lighting the room up and scoring screamers like Szoboszlai is, but he's just that tidy midfielder, and that's exactly what Klopp wants in his side. And I think that's why Jones will do so well, because he's not being bothered to sacrifice the attacking side of his game and show people how good he is attacking, because he's just sacrificed his ability to and adjusted his ability to what Klopp wants. So he plays in the side, and I think it's worked fantastically well. And again, Klopp moulded the midfield into what he wanted, and for me, he's one of the first names on the team sheet now this season, and I think people are finally agreeing, and it's mad. It's mad that Jones he's finally done it, really, because he's got so much hate over the years and he just hasn't let it get to him and reach the top. And fair play to the lad. He's been fantastic this season. He's undroppable for me.
Can I ask you a question, Matty? Do you mind?
Yeah.
What do you think
of
McAllister?
Right, moving
on. What do you think of McAllister in the 6th role?
I don't like it. Like I said, I think he's fantastic, more further up. But Jones is an unbelievable as a sole 6. I think what works so well in our midfield is, I think they need to click a little bit more. But what will work so well is all three of them have the ability to go in that 6. So I do think they'll interchange a lot throughout the 90 minutes. It's like you might see McAllister further up and Jones will drop back when he goes further up, and vice versa, like what we used to see with Trent and Robbo, if one went forward, one stayed back. I think they just need to get that gel between them, really, and I think it'll excel. I'm not a massive lover of McAllister in the 6 because he's unbelievable, and I don't want a number. I'm weird. I don't want a number 10 as our 6. It just doesn't make sense to me. So he's got a 10 on his back. I don't care if people say shirt numbers or not, but for me, he shouldn't have been given that number 10 to then go and stand as a 6, because it means that the creative, which he is. So I'd like to see him further forward, but then I think the three of them will complement each other so well that once they do click, you probably will see them all having that equal shot, really, going forward.
I think one.
Thank you, Matty. James, you can jump back in.
Well, yeah, I agree. I think one's going to be asked to stay back again with Trent, isn't there? You know, as we attack and stuff like that, and whoever's in the position wherever Trent comes from is probably the, you know, if Robbo goes forward, then probably the left side. That it's such a tactical nightmare, isn't it? You know, thinking about playing a rotational 6 and a double pivot and people that put, like, from a ex-rugby player perspective, having diagonal lines everywhere just gives me a headache, because there's just so much space to take advantage of. But if we're on top, then it's great. Neil, your front 3.
This one I think is straightforward, but a mention for Cody Gakpo, who I thought was brilliant against Leicester. But I would go Mohamed Salah on the right, Luis Diaz on the left, and Darwin Núñez through the middle. I do think Gakpo played really, really well, and you could see that he was doing his very best to win back his place in the team. But I think Núñez is sharp at the moment. I think he'll call Spurs, and hopefully Romero to do something silly. So I think that would be my 3. Jota, I think, can come off the bench, probably score. He was pretty poor again the other night, but then scored a lovely goal. But yeah, for me, it's clearly Salah, Núñez, Diaz.
Big Oz, what's yours?
Same 3. Not much more to add, to be quite honest. You got to have a little sympathy for all of our forwards, because probably they all deserve to play. Absolutely wonderful players, lots of energy. I mean, the way they press from the front is phenomenal, really. So anyone who doesn't play any game is going to be unlucky. But I agree that those 3 players that Neil mentioned, they are absolutely the stars, and they have the most impact, and they cause the most danger, and they excite the fans the most also. So I think that makes a lot of sense.
Now, my gut feeling is that Matty's going to say the same thing, so I'm going to give you a different one and then pass it to Matty, because I think I'd start Gakpo, because I think the player with the most confidence in the Spurs team is Bissouma, and I think Gakpo can cause him an absolute nightmare with his false 9 skills. And I think, looking at Gakpo's celebration, he's angry that he's not playing, and I think he'd be bang up for something like that, where he's got a role to make Diaz and Salah go forward and score goals. But so I'd probably start with Gakpo, and then I'd probably bring on Núñez, so that we didn't concede the first goal. Be a nice change of pace for me. And then, bring on Darwin, 60 minutes, Bosch bagging a hat-trick. Matty, I know you're going to go Núñez.
Yeah, of course. Got to. I mean, I just think sides don't know what to do with him. Genuinely, when he comes on, he just looks like he's going to do something. Even against Leicester, that we didn't score, he just didn't know what to do with him, because if he play, no matter where they get him on the pitch, he is going to out-sprint any player in the Premier League. I think he's one of the fastest in the league, and Bissouma's been fantastic this season, but I don't think anyone in Spurs will know what to do with Núñez. And I just think teams who try and go higher against us with the press, Núñez works so well because he plays on that last man, and you can let them go as high up as they want, because you know that your 9's going to win that sprint race. I just think he's the better option. I think against the low block sides in the false 9, Gakpo's the option, but I just think against Spurs, Núñez is the right call to start, and he's been fantastic this season, to be fair to the lad. I think he's really turned his fortunes round at us, so I would start him just purely based on the way Spurs will bring the game to us. I think Núñez will work better, and I think Diaz and Salah them and Alisson are the first names on the team. They're irreplaceable, and there's nobody in the league like Diaz. Maybe Doku, but Diaz is a winger, a proper complete winger, and he's got to play.
I can't disagree with you, because he's an unbelievable player, and I think he's due a hat trick for me. He's due one of those devastating performances, Núñez, I think, where he's just going to destroy a team, and I think that's where he's going to kick on from. It's just, I don't know if it's Spurs. It could be anyone. I hope it's Man United, to be completely honest, but I want him to do it before then. Right, so tomorrow, 5 o'clock kickoff. Score predictions. Are we keeping a clean sheet? Are we destroying them? Is it going to be a 3-2? Is it going to be a 4-3? Big Oz, let's kick it off.
I'm going with another 3-1. I think we'll concede a goal for sure. Hey, safe prediction.
Everything's a 3-1.
I might put a side wager with the 3-1 as well. No, I think we'll score goals. I think Spurs will score a goal. I think our defense is pretty good these days. Yes, we concede a goal. Yeah, a goal. But we're not conceding much more. Once we kick into gear, we seem to shore up pretty well. And if we don't let Spurs score 2 or 3 on us in the first 30 minutes, I think we'll be pretty much okay. And I can just see us scoring goals. I mean, I think it was Neil, I'm not sure, maybe Matty said Romero has a mistake in him. That's absolutely true. I mean, if Núñez is on Romero, I don't know what's going to happen to that poor boy in defence. He's going to have a hard time. He's a good player, a very good player, don't get me wrong. But he does have that moment where he's got that South American trait where he gets angry too. And when you're a defender and you get angry, you make even more mistakes. So I really like that matchup, Nunez on Romero, to give him a really, really hard time. So, I'm going to go with 3-1. I think it's a plausible scoreline.
There's a chance there's a red card tomorrow for one of the Spurs players, with all the hype and everything like that. And someone like Romero just goes in and takes someone out, and then it just turns into a cakewalk. Neil, what's the score prediction for you?
I think I think it's going to be a statement performance. And I do agree with what Big Oz said earlier about Spurs haven't really played anyone against Arsenal. So I think people are going over the top a little bit. I expect us to capitalise on mistakes at the back for them. And I'm going to go Tottenham Hotspur 1, Liverpool 4, statement victory.
Now I'm waiting for, if Jen was in the stream now, she'd be writing 8-0, hat-trick Darwin Núñez. But thankfully we've got Matty. So 8-0, hat-trick Curtis Jones?
Nah, I reckon 4-0. I reckon we will keep a clean sheet. I agree with Neil. I think it'll be a statement. And any side, as someone spoke about earlier, but any side who plays out from the back against Liverpool, it does not work. Leicester found that out very quickly in the Carabao Cup, but he just didn't change it up. And I don't think Spurs will. And that's when we vote for Cario. He's a good keeper, but I don't think he's strong enough playing out from the back for what we will bring. They did look good against Arsenal, but like Dave said earlier, Arsenal were miles off it in that game. They weren't the Arsenal that we see week in, week out. So I think 4-0. We always, I feel like every year we before a Spurs game, we say like, oh, we're worried, we think it'll be close games, then we end up going and turning them a new one every week. So I do think 4-0. I think Darwin will bag 2 and get brought off, and everyone will be fuming. But I reckon Darwin, I reckon Szoboszlai is going to score another rocket, I reckon that's going to give him so much confidence to just try it a little bit more. And I've never seen it quite like it.
The problem with that is if everyone starts, not for Liverpool, this is great for Liverpool, but everyone's like, oh, we need to pin Szoboszlai down. And then you just leave space for Diaz, Salah and Núñez to score goals. Yeah. It's an impossible situation, isn't it? And when you've got Trent there as well, and you've got 2 people that can lob it in from 30 yards, what do you do? It's a good problem to have, isn't it, for us?
Yeah, I mean, so Szoboszlai, to be fair, I think he's got that in his rocker every single week. To be honest, like that goal will be something that we just remember him for happening all time and time again. Like when you see his highlight reels and stuff, they're the type of goals he scores week in, week out. But to actually witness one, it was just like, oh my God. Like, I haven't seen a fella hit a ball like that just from nothing, like since Stevie G. I'm not comparing him and Stevie G. Gerrard's in a league of his own. But it just felt so good to see a midfielder absolutely bloody ping one and it go in. It's been a few years since we've had that. So I do think he'll score tomorrow.
I'm between what you said, Matty, and a really difficult 2-1. And the reason that, and I think it comes down to the first goal and the first 25 minutes. I think if we dominate them in the first 25 minutes and get our first goal, then I think we can run away with it and really put in a statement, as both you and Neil said. I think if they score first and they manage to get through to half-time with it 1-1 or 1-0, I still think we take them because it's Spurs and, leaky. But we make hard work of it. So I'll agree with Matty. I'll go with a 4-0. I think we'll do it early. I think we've Klopp's going to drill them so hard to actually kick off quickly that actually we might scare them into submission. But we're back on a Saturday. We're back on TV for once. Thank you very much to Matty, Neil, Big Oz, everyone in the chat for joining us. If you are new here, make sure that you like and subscribe to the channel. We go live every day at 7:30. We go live after the games as well, so make sure that you join us if you want to get your Liverpool reactions in after you've seen it. You want to give Matty some abuse about how well Curtis Jones played. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and we'll catch you on the next one. Take care.